Hey there everyone, Muckluck Douglas Bartholomew Reginald Esquire IV here with a guide to the hybrid Soulbeast build that has become my favorite way of doing fractals since discovering it. I would imagine this build is also viable in raids as well from what I've seen so far, but I have not tested it there myself. This build does a solid mix of condition and power damage. Most of the power damage is on the front end, so in the first 5 to 10 seconds of a fight, you will do a lot of power damage while building up conditions on the target. If the fight continues past that point, your conditions will overtake the power damage and do heavy, consistent damage for the remainder of the fight. This makes this build viable for any fractal encounter, and I would imagine most raid bosses. There are two versions of this build that are nearly identical, save for 2 traits and a skill. The team player version is shown here. Sharpened edges for chance on crit to cause bleeding, hidden barbs for higher bleeding damage, vicious quarry for a higher crit chance, which synergizes with sharpened edges, resounding timbre for lower cooldown on Sikkim, natural healing, or wilting strike. Honestly, neither will help much here, so take whichever one you fancy. Honed axes for more ferocity and reduced cooldown of axe skills. Live fast for the boons after using our merged F3. We will be merged nearly 100% of the time, so the other 2 options in this column don't help. Essence of Speed for better boon uptime, and Leader of the Pack to share stances, specifically our ultimate One Wolf Pack. Skills for the team player are, we heal as one most of the time. On some fights with a lot of conditions, such as the boat on Siren's Reef, the second boss fight of the Nightmare Fractal, or if the Bleed Fire instability is active, you can take Bear Stance with Stance Sharing, or Healing Spring to help a lot with Group Condition Cleanse. Frost Spirit to increase our team's damage, Sharpening Stone, and Sikkim for DPS increase, and One Wolf Pack for big damage. That we will be Stance Sharing, as mentioned before, with Leader of the Pack to the rest of the party. The greedy version of this build is all about making your damage as high as possible. Maybe you've lost all faith in your teammates, or perhaps there is another ranger in the group that is supplying the spirit, so you don't have to. Swap Frost Spirit for Vulture Stance, swap Essence of Speed for Predator's Cunning to support Vulture Stance, and swap Leader of the Pack for Oppressive Superiority. By making these changes, you no longer supply a group One Wolf Pack or Frost Spirit, and you boost your own damage considerably in trade. Weapons are Axe Torch and Dagger Axe. We're using Viper Gear for high levels of power, precision, condition damage, and expertise. Runes of the Mad King. Weapon sigils are Geomancy and Earth on both weapon sets. We are using a Warthog Pet. Note here that I thought Rune of the Crate would be higher damage than Mad King, and I tested it along with a few other sigils, and in the end, they were not. For food and utility buffs, we're using Dragon's Revelry Starcakes and Toxic Focusing Crystals. Now, let's go over why these choices. I first saw what I called the greedy version of this build in this video showing the potential for it, and I tried it out. Link is in the description if you'd like to see the original. It seemed to have all the aspects of the condition damage build I was currently running and greatly enjoyed, but it was much better in the first 10 seconds of a fight, and some fights only last 10 seconds, especially with higher end groups. I then tried it out on a target dummy on stream, and we tested out the build as the video showed it, then a better for groups version of the build with the Frost Spirit and Stance Sharing that I added in, and various runes and sigils. I was shocked to see how much better Mad Kings did over the crate, and it took me a bit to figure out why. Let's go over the opening combo, then go over what's happening in the background when you do it. Note that all testing I'm about to show you is with the standard buffs you would have in a 5-man party. Full boons on me, full conditions on the enemy, banners and Frost Spirit on me, food and utility buffs are active. Sharpening Stone as you approach the fight, One Wolf Pack and Bonfire, Sikkim, Winter's Bite, Split Blade, Throw Torch, Weapon Swap, Double Arc, Path of Scars, and Whirling Defense. Use your F1, F2, F3 skills when the others are on cooldown. After using Double Arc and Path of Scars again, Weapon Swap back and use skills 2 through 5 on cooldown until Sikkim is back up. Then Weapon Swap again, back with Sikkim for another Axe 5 combo. Now, what the muck just happened? Let's break this down. One wolf pack triggered Rune of the Mad King. I can see from a simple test that the Mad King's rune is basically applying a Ranger's Warhorn 4, Hunter's Call, to all nearby enemies. Hunter's Call hits many times, so it in turn procs one wolf pack many times. Also, because of so many hits, it has up to 16 chances to proc Sharpened Edges. Bonfire, which was the second button we clicked, does 9 hits, which is up to 9 more procs of one wolf pack, and 9 more chances of proccing Sharpened Edges. We sick 'em, and after using Axe 2, 3, and Torch 4, which are all strong in their own right, we weapon swap, which procs the Sigil of Geomancy. This sigil does near 20k bleeding to all nearby enemies when you're fully buffed. After we weapon swap, we hit Double Arc for damage, Path of Scars, which triggers twice as vicious, then we use Whirling Defense. Whirling Defense hits 12 times. That is 12 chances to proc one wolf pack, and 12 more chances to proc Sharpened Edges. As one wolf pack and Sick'em wear off, we start to taper off from our burst phase until the next Sick'em becomes available, where you see another spike. We will have near 50 stacks of bleeding on the enemy at this point, plus some burning and possibly poison, depending on which version of the build you're using. Bleeding will quickly become our #1 source of damage if the target isn't dead yet, and our next power burst will come each time that Sick'em or Sick'em and one wolf pack become available. The Boar's F2 Brutal Charge is a knockdown, and can be used to interrupt bosses or used to activate twice as vicious when needed. The F1 is a condition attack. Use it when everything else is on cooldown, as it is your weakest one among your kit. And F3 is a fair AoE attack. The problem with conditions and fractals is not that conditions themselves are bad, but that most fights with a good group are over before they can ramp up. The exception to this being DPS firebrands, which apply them so fast and they tick so fast that their burst keeps up with most power builds. However, this build removes the issue with the slow ramp-up time on Ranger's conditions with this monstrous combination. Some things I like about this build is that it can burst for upwards of 45k before falling down to 20 to 30k sustained in most situations. It has more than enough burst to handle the jobs you're supposed to handle as a DPS, such as killing an ad by yourself on the second boss of the Nightmare Fractal on Challenge Mode. You have a ranged option that still does quite a bit of damage when you are forced to range, such as when the boss is moving, or if you can't get close enough to melee for various reasons. And while I did make sure this build is completely viable before sharing it with you guys, it looks even better with groups that are less than perfect. I'm often running challenge modes with groups that have run them 100 times before, but if you are in a group with people that are anything below perfect, the numbers of this build will be even more impressive as the fights drag on. As always, I make no claims that this is the best way to play, so calm down, trolls, but it is 100% a viable and strong option. I easily cleared CM99 and CM100 and was tied for top damage with this and did all the jobs expected of me, and I have a lot of fun playing it. It truly feels like the best of both worlds with all the advantages of power and condition. Currently, if someone asks me to DPS something in PvE, this is the build I use. I hope this gives you Rangers another fun way to play, and if you enjoyed this video, please consider leaving a like for the YouTube algorithm, comment if you have any questions for me or additional input, and subscribe if you would like to see more content. A special thanks to my newest Patreon supporters who help make this possible, and if you are interested in becoming one and getting earlier access to these videos, and extra benefits, there is a link in the description. My in-game name is muckluck.9082 if you need to reach me there, or talk to me live any evening on Twitch after 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, with extra streams on Wednesdays and Fridays at 1 p.m. Eastern from the EU servers. Click the follow button on Twitch to be notified when I go live. That's it for today. Happy Rangering!